What's going on, everybody, and welcome to another episode of Ask A CISSP. So this is a complimentary show to the other side of the firewall, where we talk about the latest and greatest in cybersecurity news, as well as we showcase those people of color who've made it to the other side of the proverbial firewall. So please tune into that show as well. But this time, I have a special guest, and we're doing things a little bit different. So typically, I just talk into the void when it comes to Ask A CISSP. You ask me a question, I just try to answer the best I can, but this time is more of a Q&A, and I have a special guest. So if you could please introduce yourself.
Hi, everyone. My name is Tish. I am a recent cybersecurity bootcamp student slash graduated student now. I just obtained my CySA Plus certification with zero tech knowledge or IT background.
That's awesome. So if you could share with us, what is your previous experience?
So I do have a technical aviation degree, which has nothing to do with tech. I did graduate from Vaughan Aviation Technical College, which is in Queens, New York. This was eons ago. I'm not going to tell my age. But after that, I decided that I wanted to become a pilot. And it took me quite a while to get there. I am a student pilot. I still train whenever I can find the money or the resources to do so. I have a couple hours under my belt, and I last worked as a flight attendant for United Airlines.
Okay, that's awesome. And that is exactly what people are doing, right? Like, it seems like the trek to cyber, it has many different paths. So with that being said, what brought you to cyber?
Okay, so funny story. I took a year off from work because I was starting to feel the effects of having to go through 16 different personalities in one day. I kind of sort of got burnt out a little bit, and I decided to take a year off and spend some time with my family, just get back into like the norm of things. And this happened to be 2019. By the time I decided to return to work, hey, the pandemic hit.
Right.
So, it took me a couple of months of staying at home, doing little call center jobs, little knickknacks here and there. And it really gave me the time to sit down and reassess my life, my responsibilities, directions, things that I wanted to do. And I wanted to opt for a lifestyle that allowed me to still have the flexibility that the airline industry gave me. And I also wanted to work remote or work from my laptop anywhere in the world, because I do generally still have a love for travel, and I plan to travel. And one day I was just browsing online. I found an ad for cybersecurity, and I probably went down like a rabbit hole for 3 days. And when I say a rabbit hole, I meant like I was eating peanut butter and jelly sandwiches on my bed and, taking really brisk showers to run back, because for the first time in a long time, I just found something and I was super fascinated about it, and I just couldn't let it go.
All
So
right.
then
That's awesome.
that's how I found my boot camp as well, which is for scholars, by the way, and it's a non-for-profit organization, great industry, great teachers, and the best part about it, it was free. And that's exactly what I needed at that time, because I didn't have the $14,000 that Ruckus was charging, and I didn't have the $2,100 for a 5-day boot camp that I saw elsewhere that I know I was not going to succeed with at all.
Got you. No, that's awesome. Like, especially that you found that opportunity, because a lot of people are spending a lot of money, or they believe that they have to have a graduate degree in cyber to get into cyber. So again, that's a misnomer, right? So it takes people from all over the place. Yeah, in some ways. We'll get there. Yeah, we'll get there.
Because they did do a really extensive background search. For a minute, I'm looking at the requirement list that they sent me, and I'm like, am I working for the feds or something? Because a whole 10-year background check. I mean, I'm clean,
right.
But they really do have a very thorough vetting process. So that made me a little bit secure going into that type of boot camp with that particular school as well.
No, that's awesome. So what are your interests? Like, what sector are you thinking about going into when it comes to cyber?
Without a doubt,
Question.
within less than 15 weeks, I already knew that I had the genetic built up concept of and I quote this, a badass pen tester.
Okay.
That period. That's gonna be me. That's me without a doubt. I do also, now I can say this after being in the industry for such a short time, I do have a tremendous respect for the industry. I do have a really, really tremendous respect for OSINT and what it stands for. And I really do believe in advocating for a safer place for us, for our future generations, and sharing knowledge as well.
Right. And that's exactly what industry needs right now. So like we talk about all the time, there's a million vacancies and we need people who are passionate and people who want to learn. And then we kind of throw them through the ringer, like, oh, we want you to have all these certifications and all this stuff. And that's kind of more new school cyber, because at one point before it was I guess mainstream, before people really knew what cybersecurity was, before the colonial pipelines and the ransomwares and all that stuff, it really wasn't just about people who were excited about it and wanted to learn more, right? It's all about that passion to discover and to learn. And like you think you're like, I need to absorb this information. I need to find a way to get into it. And that's awesome. And then now you're on your way to being, like you said, a badass pen tester, right?
That I am.
So what's next in your opinion? Like, what do you want to focus on now?
Okay, so what a lot of people fail to realize is that a boot camp really serves two purposes. It gives you the ability to get a certification, yes, but it also gives you such a huge amount of information in such a short space of time. You kind of like get either short-circuited, or I've heard somebody mention it's like a fire hose pipe being opened up on you. So I definitely experienced that. So whilst I have retained a lot of information, I feel like it's necessary to sit down and go over everything. So I literally just started back from chapter 1, Linux, and I'm going to go through my entire program again, sit down, absorb everything, reread my books. But in the meantime, I've also started on my what's next. So I'm also doing a CCP, and a TCM Security has a practical ethical hacking course, which I paid $30 for. Steal of a deal, by the way. And that's like my next step, definitely going into hacking. And I just got my badge yesterday for a 7-day streak on Try Hack Me. So the aim is to get to the end, which is I think that pen testing box. So definitely follow my socials and look out for it, because I try to like update everybody on my progress. And it's not only for me, but I also use everybody's input as motivation and accountability as well.
Okay. Your excitement makes me excited. I'm like, man, I should jump into something.
That's what I want. That's what I want. I want like being able to share my story. I want it should have two purposes for the noobs like myself. You know, find your passion and let it be your driving force if this is the industry that you want to be in, and to know that even though you look at a screen, because I've looked at screens for the past 15 weeks, like, what is that? And you know, I've had incidences where, you know, I slammed down the laptop and I'm like, I'm never doing this, or this is not me. And you know, you'd go online and you'd see somebody retweet a tweet, or you see a post from somebody, and it, you know, it's like, okay, fine, if she could do it, then all right, fine, I'm gonna do it too. Right. All right. So it serves as, I want my journey to serve as motivation for someone that hasn't done it before. And I also want for the people that are in the industry who are 20-year veterans, 30-year veterans, or close to being burnt out, I want them to like, look at me, see my journey, see the excitement, see the passion. And I wanted to just like re-spark that little thing that they probably had once long time ago, or they probably lost it. I want them to find that back, because as much as people think, we look up to you guys. You guys were there before us. So we are depending on you to like provide us with information and help and anything possible. So if, you know, your response to a question that I have doesn't meet the excitement, or there's no passion in it, then it really is just, it's going to make me feel like I'm bothering you. And I don't want to feel like I'm bothering somebody. Like I need to have conversations with people that are just as excited or just as passionate about this particular topic. So I just want people to like remember, go back to that time when, you found that this was for you and you was excited about it, and it's still there. Just, reignite that spark all over again, because you're needed. You're definitely needed.
Yeah, definitely. So we kind of talked about it before, like, so pre-show, right? So the reason I wanted you on was because you actually asked me for a conversation. So typically people send me questions, and nothing's wrong with that. So continue to please send questions and what have you. But well, you reached out to me. I was like, yeah, ask me a question. And then your response was, and I think this would be a better conversation. And then like a light bulb went off, right? That's that passion you talk about, that spark, where I was like, you know what? The show is usually me talking into the void. Like, let me get you on the show. And that way you can ask me the questions, and then this would, spark a pretty good conversation, and it'll help out people who are also trying to get in, right, into the industry. So I see a lot of people who, I got a lot of connections where people are helping people, right? So like they're either tagging them in a post where they know someone is a hiring manager, or they're answering questions, or they're trying to say, hey, this is like a certification you may want to look into, or something you may want to study. But I think we could do all the above and showcase you and your passion. So that way,
Absolutely.
like your platform right now, and I see you on LinkedIn. I'm not sure you have other platforms as well, but like LinkedIn is a living resume, right? So like you can
Yes.
share this video and it can show, this person is very excited and this is what they want to do. So I've asked you a bunch of questions. I have a million more, but the premise is you're supposed to ask me questions, right? So
There we go.
what you have for me?
So my first question would be for someone like myself with and when I say zero tech knowledge, I really do mean zero at IT background, IT tech knowledge, zero, to the point where before this, when I opened up my computer, my laptop, I would literally just go online to buy shoes. And now here I am with, well, I would say I blindly went into this in a fourth tier certificate.
Mhm.
And now that I'm job hunting, everything requires 4 to 5 years of experience. I get it now. I get it. Yes, it takes
Right.
4 to 5 years to get to this certification level. And I don't know, maybe by some miracle, my brain adjusted. I did make 48 hours out of a 24-hour day. So I really put in the work to be able
Right.
to break down the domains, understand the domains, did a little touching on exploitation tools, touched on Linux, touched on networking. I have all that. It's not, I have no background in it though, so I can't show viable evidence that, hey, I've been
Right.
doing this for 4 or 5 years. But what I do have, as I like to call it now, is this huge 4 tier certificate. And what do I do with it? Because nobody seems to want to pay me any kind of attention without
Right.
having seen some sort of 2 year, 1 year, 3 year background. It's only been 15 weeks for me. So I have no blogs to show. I've been too caught up trying to understand um, subnetting to even think about a blog.
Right.
So my question is, what do I do in this instance?
So you answered part of your question. You are advanced for your level of experience with the knowledge that you currently have, right? So you're able to soak this stuff up like a sponge, which is awesome, and that's what we want to see. Um, it's a very expansive question. When it comes to the amount of years that you need for certain certifications, stuff like that, that is just a roadmap, right? They're saying that based upon the type of information you need to know in order to obtain the certification, you would need this type of experience. Obviously, it doesn't ring true for everything. Like you can literally be in the industry for 20 years and not be able to obtain a certain cert, because it's so broad, right? So some things are a mile wide and inch deep. That's what they call the CISSP, because there's so much information you have to absorb, and usually you get that through experience. In your case, I would say your passion drives you towards more knowledge, and that knowledge will over time give you the experience. Um, Apply anyway. So a lot of people will say, well, they say I need 3 years, they say I need 5 years. That there aren't enough people for the amount of vacant seats that are out there. Like
And it really is
recruiters,
intimidating. The
yeah,
type of you read up a job description and you
yeah,
recognize some stuff and you're like, well, I saw this and I probably did it for 5 minutes in class, but you get that excitement to want to do it again
right,
in the actual work field, but then again, it's sort of intimidating because the amount of stuff they ask for, you're like, you're
Yeah.
asking for a lot, and I don't have all that right now. Or
Right. And don't lose that passion, right? So the thing is, like, you're trying to hit a moving target. And that's with all of us. That's even people who've been in the industry forever.
okay,
Because recruiters are, they want to shoot for the moon, right? The more experience they can pull into a position, the higher the certifications and education, the more bang for their buck, basically.
okay,
Some of it overreaching, like they're shooting for the stars for everything. They want a CISSP with 15 years of experience, willing to take like the lowest of salaries. Like, that's not going to happen, right? And then on the reverse side, they want somebody with experience for certain systems. I saw one for like Kubernetes. They wanted like 6 or 7 years or 10 years. They wanted more.
Kubernetes just came out.
Yeah, yes. And you're just like, that doesn't even make sense. So the recruiter doesn't even know what they're asking for.
And they
So
just recently got approved for I did some KubeCon stuff virtually too. I'm
okay,
like, yeah, I get in anything I can get into,
okay,
I get into. So and
okay.
I'm sort of like a tech wiki, if you will,
Gotcha.
or tech Google, if you will. So they recently got approved for their certification. So now there's going to be like a certification course that you could take for
Right.
Kubernetes, and I thought that was amazing. That was groundbreaking.
Yeah.
And it only
And
happened recently, I think last month at KubeCon.
right. And
They
and
announced
again,
it.
that, so is that passion, right? So you're researching, you're learning, you know about the industry and all that stuff. You just have to get that on paper, and that kind of negates some of the years of experience they're looking for. They're looking for somebody who is passionate, someone who's knowledgeable, and somebody who's willing to learn. That's basically what they're looking for. But they disguise it within their postings. So apply anyway. But I'd say also apply for things that may not be at that tier you're looking for. Like, sometimes you have to take a step back, which
Mm,
just to get your foot in the door, right? So you're doing the right thing by being on a platform, right? So like LinkedIn is great for networking. Like, find those
mm,
people in the companies you want to work and make connections, meaningful connections where you actually are conversing with these people. Like, hey, like you did with me. Like, now I just want to ask you a question. I want to have a conversation with you about this. Um, Continuously post things that you are learning or things that you are
mhm.
experiencing. Like, I saw your post today about
My badge would try hack me.
right, exactly. Um, it shows that you have a passion, that you're working towards, that you're studying on your own, and you're not, uh, just doing it just to do it. And again, you may have to take and this is not to be demeaning to people who are in help desk. I'm not trying to say that at all, but a lot of entry level positions are help desk, where you may not be pen testing, right? But you are
Mhm.
within the company. You are doing things that give you a chance to find somebody who can sponsor you and have you work in a different department, or they can allow you to progress as you show that you demonstrate knowledge and all these things, right? So again, I'm not knocking help desk. Like, I've done help desk. Um, it's a different experience. It's very customer service driven, which a lot of people in tech don't enjoy, right? A lot of us like to be behind the door somewhere where we're far from the customer as possible. But with your experience, right? Like, so you talk about uh, being a flight attendant. So that's very
Yeah,
customer
I do.
service
I do
driven.
have that customer service
Yeah.
orientation, retention, that type of background.
Right. But not
Um,
only that, but you have to also think about the other side. Like, you already are very uh, disciplined, and you have standard operating procedures that you would follow, as well as you have, like, what happens in case of emergency, right? Like, no one thinks about that. Like, you might read to me what I need to do at the exit. I'm not paying attention to that.
Nobody
So
does.
if it really goes down, like, you're the subject matter expert on the aircraft
Right.
to get us where we need to be, and you need to be calm under extreme pressure, because there's nothing more extreme than being 30,000 feet in the air and then something goes wrong. So that's all stuff that you can put in your resume to show, like, hey, listen, I can work in different sectors. I can work customer service. I can also
Hmm.
work maybe in your compliance and governance section, because I'm good at learning what the company is supposed to do and how they're supposed to do it.
That's useful.
So I
Thank
can,
you.
I can learn those frameworks, as well as I know what to do in case of emergency, right? So business continuity plan, disaster preparedness, like what happens if there's a man-made disaster or a hurricane or a flood. Like you need people who are calm. Like, oh, the server room's on fire. What do we do? A
Oh,
lot of
you
people would
just
be
gave
like,
me so much gems for my resume, or like an actual interview, because I would have never thought, to use, like, I do have stuff from my background. Another great thing about the program is that we had an entire part of it dedicated to professional development, where we went through everything from resume building, cover building, how to read and write in car sequence. It really was fundamental. Um, but talking to you now and being able to like pull from those little pieces and integrate it into like a whole conversational piece, I would have never thought to do that. But yeah, I can definitely see that working. And you also said something just now, which kind of like I want to touch on and just segue into my next question.
yeah,
You just said that not to knock the help desk rule, but I should apply for something. I can apply for something like help desk. From what I've seen with help desk, it requires more of the fundamental basics. So there's a lot of like networking in there, a lot of like Linux in there. And again, for me, I've touched on these things. I
right,
haven't fully had a whole comprehensive understanding of doing it and playing around with it and how it works. Um, Again, mostly if you go to take the CySA exam, the
mhm,
brunt of it is these 5 domain topics. So
right,
most of my knowledge base and my classroom knowledge base would have been circumnavigating around those 5 domain topics. So that's where my stronger skill set lies. Um, and again, so if I were to apply for like a help desk role and they wanted to give me an assessment and send tickets and had me doing, uh, you know, things that are out of the ordinary, like
right,
networking and firewalls and stuff like that, there's very little that I can do. Um, but as opposed to if I were given packets to read, logs to read, and NIST questions and OSWAP and applications and stuff like that, that's pretty much where the brunt of my knowledge lies. Again, yes, I know we're supposed to
mhm.
start at security. I mean, sorry, network plus and then security. And I really wish that there was someone to tell me, stop, we can't start you off at CISA, go back down, go back down, 2 notches down, and then you'll figure it on the way up. It's a path. Um, I really wish that there was some way or someone to tell me, hey, you can't go this far with zero knowledge, because it really kind of it comes around to like bite you in the butt, sort of. Because now I feel like I'm really struggling to try to find a position in tech.
Right.
And yes, I'm certified for this position, but I cannot yet perform this position because I lack requirements. And even if I try to downgrade and go down, I haven't had that much time building the foundation for the fundamentals. So at some point, I'm still incapable of performing to that level that you would need me to perform at. So question again, do I just opt for maybe an onboarding with internship or apprenticeship type program? Is that what I should be doing at this point while still furthering my studies? Or should I just do a whole broad range? Hey, apply to anybody and everybody, and who takes me, then we'll see what happens.
So it's hard to say, right? Because like I said earlier, I think I alluded to this, like it's a ever moving target. So in your case, I think that you would do fine with most companies within that scope and working your way up to the pen test. Like you've touched a lot of key areas already. You just may not recognize it. They can be
Sure
kind of
don't.
intimidating, like because like every job advertisement is meant to be intimidating to try to weed people out.
Okay.
You know way more than you think you know, because of the certification that you currently have. Like you may need a little bit of broadening. A lot of that is OJT, right? It's on job
Mm-hmm.
training. A lot of that will be OJT. However, there's stuff that you can accomplish on your end, like through uh, there's training on LinkedIn. There's Cyber, like free training where you
Okay.
can show, like, I have a certificate. It's not a certification, right? But it's a certificate where I have completed these things. I know Linux. I know a little bit about security,
Networking, right?
a little bit about networking, things of that nature. So yes, you did skip a couple steps, but I don't believe that's a knock. I don't believe that's going to pigeonhole you or stop you from doing anything. If anything, it shows like, um, hey, I understand at a higher level how these things are supposed to work theoretically. Now I just need to put my hands on it to demonstrate it, and you can do that through labbing. You can do that through a lot of different things. Like the virtual environment is close enough to the real environment where you can compensate by just learning more. You can do that while applying for these jobs. So I wouldn't wait to start applying, but I also would warn you, a lot of people will tell you that they've applied to a multitude of jobs and been turned
Mm-hmm.
down. You can't let it discourage you, because you have to think because they keep advertising that there's a million open seats, there's a million people trying to fill those seats. So like the floodgates have opened. Like before, cybersecurity was a very like no one knew what it was. Like, oh, you work
Mm-hmm.
security? Like they thought that you worked at like actual security, like
Walking
physical
around building.
security. Yeah. So now it's become more mainstream. So everybody's trying to jump in. But there will always be positions, and you'll be surprised on based upon your life experience, like the stuff we talked about, right? The things that you can
Mm-hmm.
make practical, as well as the things that you now bring to the table with your certification. The combination, you will find employment. It just may not be exactly what you want off the top. Just to be realistic with you, that goes for anybody who's currently in cyber. You may have to do a different position. Like you might have to do something that's more compliance, or you might have to do something that's more to do with regulation, or you may have to do help desk, or you may have to do configuration management where you're actually touching servers and things of that nature. And a lot of that doesn't require you to have to pay for a certification. It just requires that you can express that you have that
Mm-hmm.
knowledge, and you can show your passion towards learning. Because to be honest with you, like just like when I mentioned, like they want a CISSP to take like a pay cut, right? We want you to have all these years, but we're going to give you this little bit of money. Um, they are being greedy. So I'm just gonna put it out there. Like I'm not a recruiter, never been a recruiter. I'm not trying to throw
Right.
shade at them, but they are being greedy because the floodgates are open. But they need to fill these positions regardless. So you will find employment.
Oh, that part I know. One way or the other,
Yeah.
it's gonna come. Um, uh, so pretty much when you're applying to be a flight attendant, there's a series of interviews that you go through. You do an
Right.
assess, you throw in your resume, they send you an assessment, and then they do something which is called a VI, which is a video interview. And
Okay.
then you do an F to F, which is a face-to-face interview, and then they're on the spot. They'll either award you a CJO, conditional job offer. Then you go to training. Then you do something called an IOE, which is a onboard initial experience, and then you're like, hey, you can say I'm a flight attendant. Um, Delta, when they open up their application window, they get hit with something anywhere close between 62, could be 100,000 resumes.
Gotcha.
Most of the times they only grab 1,000.
Right.
So out of that thousand, only 1,000, sorry, is hired. And that's you going through all of those things, all the interview assessments that I mentioned before to get to that part. So I've applied to a lot of regional airlines, and the big four: Delta, American, United, and JetBlue.
Mhm.
And it's after being constantly turned down, you get used to, this didn't work out for me, I'm going to try again. This one didn't work out for me, I'm going to try again. So I'm no stranger to, you're not going to get hired. I'm no stranger to, it's going to take a while to get hired. Um, I tend to more focus on the other part of the glass, half full, half empty part. So
Gotcha.
I tend to always try to put myself in that mental frame where, let me not focus on the negative. Let me find what's the positive out of it. The positive out of it is that over the years, I've figured out the assessments, learned how to do them, worked on, positioning myself in the camera properly, speaking into the camera properly, worked on my physical introduction skills, being friendly, making sure to smile. And, after a while, I'm pretty sure I can ace one of those interviews easily now. And I just say that a lot of people, they get turned down, and within 2, 3 interviews and you're like, okay, this is not for me. And, you run to go to like another industry, but don't let that be the defining factor for you. Don't let that be the end of it. If this is something that you absolutely want to do, take from those interviews, take from why they didn't hire you, take from it, work on it, and go again. You
So
know?
that leads me to ask you a question. So have you looked into, because you call them the big four, right? The big four airlines. Have you looked into their cybersecurity and information technology postings, since you already
Oh,
have been
absolutely.
in
Because
the
I thought
system?
that it would be easier because I understand, first of all, I understand the
Right.
aircraft in its entirety, outside, inside. I'm also a pilot, a student pilot, so I know a little bit more than the average. And I've worked on planes before. And I also know the airline industry, its ins and outs, its lingos. Um, it's just a matter of who grants me the interview.
Right.
But I've definitely applied. I don't think I reached out to anyone that I know personally. I feel like that was going to be my next. Let me just try to apply the regular way. And if that doesn't
Right.
work, if nothing catches, then I'd probably like start hunting down hiring managers or people that I know in the industry, say, hey, can you like do something for me? That kind of thing. But I would I would love to go back into the airline industry. I mean, there's perks. So
Right.
discounted travel and stuff like that. And it's definitely an industry that has my heart as well. But I still try to remain as open-minded as possible. Anybody that's willing to take me in, I am all yours. And it's only going to get better from there on. Like,
Right.
I can't see it going any other way.
Right. And what about the DoD sector? Have you looked into any of those positions? Because you do
No.
have a higher level, you have a higher level cert already. So there's something called 8570, where the DoD requires you to have certain certifications to work on DoD systems, right? So what I tell a lot
CySA
of
Plus
people,
is one.
yeah, so Sec Plus, Net Plus. I think I want to say CYSA Plus is a tier.
4.
Right. But in DoD, I think because there's only so many tiers in DoD, it's like IAM and IAT, level one, level two. I think it's a level two. I think like CISSP will be level three. And I want to say like A plus is level one. So I think you fall in between. I think you fall at a level two, which is really
Mhm.
good. There's lots of positions for that, right? So usually your Sec Plus, CCNA, security, I think CYSA, I'll have to look it up. But if you go to LinkedIn jobs, you put your zip code in and you put in 8570, a lot
Mhm.
of those DoD contracts will pop up that are in the area, and a lot
Interesting.
of them are not on bases. Like there's a lot of contractors that support bases remotely, or they're just bigger companies like your Jacobs, your Lockheeds,
Right.
things of that nature. But they all have the same DoD requirements in order to get a position.
Would it
Uh,
require you to have US citizenship or would residency work? Do you know
no,
that?
resume should work. So
Okay.
when it comes to jobs that require clearances, then that's when things
The
may be
security
different.
clearance. Okay.
Right. But if you don't require a clearance to do the job, which a lot of them don't, um, a lot of them do, but a lot of them don't, then there may be also an avenue to look into. And from my experience, they're not the highest paying jobs. Because again, there's perks with it, right? So to work in a government contract sometimes nets you more pay, or it may net you the ability to get a clearance, or it may net you certain perks that come with it, or
Okay.
the employer may pay for more certifications, education, things of that nature. But it might be something you want to look into. And I've met a few people that use it as a stepping stone, right? Like once you get into the government, you can it's upward mobility from there.
From there.
So you may go from being a contractor to being a GS civilian, and then that has its benefits as well, and a pretty good pension at the end of it.
I didn't think about it that way. Thank you for
Yeah,
that.
yeah. It's called
Um,
8570 is the requirement. The number is going to change because that's what we
mhm.
do in the
Oh,
DoD. We change everything, right? But right now it's still 8570.
kind of like
But
US immigration every month.
yeah, but yeah, check into it and see if that may be something that interests you as well. And again, it's a foot in the door. It may not be exactly what you're looking for, but and I keep saying But in the DoD sector, there's everything: compliance, to pen testing, to security management, like the
Oh, that's
full
good.
spectrum.
And what are your thoughts on blogs? How relevant is it to, am I supposed to, because I keep getting, do you have a blog, or where's your work? And I mean, I looked at GitHub one time and I got a migraine. Excedrin didn't work for that. So I absolutely am like, I'm never getting, never say never, but I'm never getting a GitHub. I have no interest in that page at all.
Right.
But it comes up every ever so often. And being in the industry, you see people posting a lot like, hey, go to my blog, buy me a coffee. Funny story. I actually thought buy me a coffee was literally to like go and get someone a Starbucks or a Dunkin' Donuts card and like physically give it to them or scratch the code. This is me thinking buy me a coffee like 4 weeks into InfoSec. And then I realized that, oh, that's what buy me a coffee is.
Right.
Okay, glad to know. But yeah, is it what are your thoughts on that? Are we supposed to blog, or we're not supposed to blog, or it doesn't really
So
matter?
so it depends on how you decide to do your networking. So for me, it's video content, right? Video and audio content.
Mm-hmm.
Do I need to blog? No. Could I? Yes. Is this about finding the time to do something, right? That can take you a path to other things. So I've seen people who went from LinkedIn to doing blogs to then taking their talents to I think it's pronounced Fiverr, where people can
Mm-hmm.
pay you
Yeah.
to pay you to blog, pay you to post, pay you to review certifications and write about it. It could be anywhere from 50-word blog to, or 50-word post to 100-word post to 1,000-word post. And people have pay rates. Like it's just a different source of income, different revenue
It's the
stream.
whole thing. Okay.
It's a whole thing. But at the bare essence of it, right? The blog is just to show people that you're passionate and you're learning things and you want to talk about things. So from your perspective, it will be you trying to showcase just more of your personality to employers and potential connections. If somebody who's already in the industry, maybe for me to reach out to people who are trying to get in the industry. So like maybe I should have a blog. Am I going to have one anytime soon? No.
Like me and
But
GitHub.
it it helps. Like GitHub is also a good one to get into. I don't have that either. It's just whatever you feel comfortable with. Like maybe your thing will be blogging, or maybe your thing will be making video content. Like you might want to make some videos where you talk about your experience getting your certification. And it just
I
helps
don't know.
people just to learn who you are, like, okay,
I feel like it requires so much, so much. I'm an avid overthinker, by the way, and I feel like it requires a lot of thought on my end. First of all, if I decided that I wanted to do anything, it would definitely have to be something that sets me apart from the rest.
right,
Um, but then again, every time you hit an infosec blog, it's you literally can see the repeat pattern from everyone. Hey, little introduction about myself. Hey, I'm a Pentester. Hey, I do hack, try hack me. I'm hacking the box. I'm number one here.
right,
Hey, Linux networking fundamentals. So for me, uh, things like that, I try to like, I tend to stray a little away from. So I feel like it would require like a little sit down and have like a couple staff meetings in my head about exactly what direction we're going to go in, how to set my blog apart from everybody else's, because I really am a stickler for like the repetitive and mundane stuff.
right,
And I know personally I wouldn't last long if my blog was developed the same way like the average InfoSec student, teacher, pen tester, you name it, a person's blog looks like. Um, so yeah, there's definitely an idea, but it just has to be something that really pops and is not like everybody else's. So I'm not saying that I'm gonna like bring circus animals and have
right.
conversations with them, but definitely something that is a little bit unconventional. I would
Yeah.
probably want to go for.
Yeah. So I would say if that's what's appealing to you, like people can tell if you don't want to do something, right? So if that's not what
Mhm.
you do, I definitely wouldn't do it. But if it's something you want to experiment with, then by all means. But um, whatever you decide to do, whether it be to go into multimedia, doing video and audio, or to write something or what have you, I always go off of a saying my mentor said, uh, done is better than perfect because perfect is never done. So you don't want to do anything half-assed, but you don't want to be in your head for too long, like, because you will never do it. If you shoot for perfection, you'll just never obtain it. That's not the end goal. The end goal is
sometimes.
yeah. So sometimes you get there, but you know, it's that's life. So if
I'm
that's
also a
something,
pastry chef, and I do have an Instagram page, Little Miss Muffin Cup,
okay,
and it I showcase my baking skills and talents over there. So definitely that perfectionist part does come out,
yes,
because when you are, creating works of art, like I call it, you definitely need to have that little perfectionist instinct to make sure that every flower is in place, the sides are smoothed, the cake is not tilted. um so sometimes you can achieve that, but then I also get it, because there's been many nights when I've been up till 3 o'clock in the morning fighting with a cake because it just wouldn't look the way that I want it to look. And I
right.
would literally have to have someone in my household come downstairs and say, okay, it's perfect the way it is, leave it alone, stop obsessing over it. So I get it. I do get that part. Um, but just back to the blogging, if we may,
Yeah.
how influential is it in determining your career, in terms of where hired managers take a look at it? Or is that how you get like a foot in the door? Or is it like a maybe, maybe not type thing?
Uh, no, not necessarily, unless that's your career path. Like if you plan on technical writing or something like that, like maybe that will be where you showcase your talents. But if you're just
Mhm.
trying to make connections and get your foot in the door, it's not necessary. If anything, it's an added bonus. Maybe that'll catch somebody's attention. Maybe they're a blog reader. But the most of my connections are more organic, right? I see you in the industry doing something, either because LinkedIn is push and pull. So either I see you in a position where I like you could potentially help me and I'm interested in what you're doing,
Mhm.
or I see you're a person trying to do something I'm currently doing and I want to pull you into that position. So it's a lot of push and pull. And it's about just making those organic connections. Like instead of just connecting and not saying anything, like say something to them. Like in our case, you asked me a question, you asked for a conversation. And
I
that's more
do.
appealing.
Right.
Yeah.
Okay, let's move on, because I have so much questions.
Go ahead. Go ahead.
um, when it comes to certifications and gaining certifications, especially renewals,
Mhm.
for my certificate, it has a 3 year span, and at the back of my head, I keep thinking that by the time I get a job, it's going to be 3 years already. Um, do I need to renew the certificate? Do I need to? And I hear a lot of people often say you find the certificates prevalent to the industry that you want to be in. Um, don't go crazy over certifications, because
Right.
certifications matter, but they don't matter. Um, they don't matter that much unless you want to upgrade your position and you want to apply for a new job. So is that actually a thing, or it's
So
myth?
you can be over certified. Yes, that is a thing. You see people who have like a string of characters after their name, where you have like 15 certifications,
Yes.
and not in the same thing. You know what I mean? Like they like taking tests, or they're really good at taking tests. I'm not trying to knock those people. Like more power to you. I would
Right.
say get the certifications that are relevant to what you want to do. Um, I like network infrastructure. That's my bread and butter, right? That's what the military paid me to do. And from there, I got a passion for cybersecurity. So you'll see I have infrastructure certifications. I have cybersecurity certifications.
Mhm.
In, um, I have my CISSP, Security Plus, CEH. Like that's the pipeline I'm trying to get into, right? Also, have my PMP. I like planning things. Like the military
No
paid me to
CySA
do
parts yet?
it. Hmm?
No CySA?
What? One more time?
No CySA?
No, I don't. I don't have it. Nope.
Okay. Man, that
Nope.
exam
So
is
I
hard.
have
Oh,
Uh, what do I have?
but you have the
Because
CEH.
yes, I have CH. So I have Sec Plus, Net Plus,
Mm-hmm.
and CISP. Those are all from the government. I took the time to say I wanted them. They took the time to give me the money to accomplish it, and I made it happen, right? And I have experience in those sectors. CH was because of my master's. So Western Governors, one of the classes you have to obtain your CEH. And then CHFI is optional. So I took that class as well, but I did not get that certification. I just wasn't interested at the time for it. Again, I'm picking and choosing, right? I have a CCNA because network infrastructure was my bread and butter. That's what the government paid me to do.
Okay.
And then I got my PMP because I was a planner for a couple of years where I did exercise planning. And I like so it's weird. I like those type of processes. I like this is how you get from point A to point B, and then having the latitude to make things a little bit spicy in between. Like, okay, like instead of me being bored, how do I want to accomplish this task this time? But I still have those principles, those PMI principles on how this is how planning works, and then I have some latitude in there. But again, these are all things I'm interested in. I don't take certification just to take them. So right now, I'm looking at Microsoft Azure because I'm very blind to cloud. Like it's a thing that will not go away, and it's only getting bigger. And I want to do security in the cloud. So now I'm taking the fundamentals of Azure to learn how cloud works, so then I can secure it, right? So
that was my reason for doing the CCP too, because again, I'm probably going to say this a million times throughout our talk because I feel like it just always comes up as part of the conversation. I'm so new to this, so I'm always accepting of any kind of advice or criticism or anything. So I feel like it's like my little disclaimer. Anyways, I'm new to this. So then I just segue into what I want to say. I thought that because my certification is a blue certification, that it made sense to go for a red. And then I wanted to do some cloud stuff when I started the CCP. And that was my little idea of becoming well-rounded in the industry.
Right.
Because I feel like they all coupled with each other. And that would make me very diverse overall. I don't know if that's a good thing or that's how you do it, or if
so it's not a bad thing if that's what interests you. I would say it's a tough one, right? Because you may want to grab something a little bit lower, only not because you have to, but just fundamentals, right? Like you understand things at a higher level right now, but you may have gaps that you may want to fill. And again, you don't have to pay for every certification. Like there's a lot of just classes that get you a certificate that shows like you went through the trouble to learn this thing. So I wouldn't discourage you from doing it. But as you go through and apply to these jobs and they hopefully give you feedback, they may, if you keep hearing the same thing, like we want you to do this, or we wish you had that. Because I have a friend now, he's having issues because he has experience and no certifications and a high level degree. So you're like, well, based upon, you're all over the place. So it makes it really hard to place you in a particular subset of cyber or IT. We kind of want you to go back and fill in some gaps. So it may be easier for you to do that now than do that in the future. But
but I also believe that being whether you're like a great pen tester or you're great red team or blue teamer, I feel like it's necessary to have the advantage of knowledge of how both sides work as well, offensive as well as defensive. So that was also only after I discovered that my certificate was blue, and then I realized that, oh, okay, no, I'm not blue, I'm more red, purple. That pretty much pushed me into, now that I'm done with that blue, let me go run after all my red certs. Well, let me just run down the red lane and see what I can do with that.
Right.
But I'm but I definitely feel like to perform at your best, it's necessary to have knowledge of both fields and how they work as well. And I just thought, because we're in 2021 and everything is going into the cloud, let me at least grab something cloud. And maybe, if I can't get into cybersecurity, if I can't get into anything in that industry, maybe my little cloud certificate get me into something, and I'm still there, as to not entirely give up on my dream. But then also everything is going into the cloud. So it kind of like a win-win. It's like a, hey, why not? Let me just go ahead and grab this and have it there too.
Yeah, and I don't see anything wrong with that. I don't think that's a problem. Like from my perspective, it wouldn't be a problem if you went that route. Um, it's just I think you're qualified now, to be honest with you. Like with passion, experience, now with certification. Like I'm not discouraging you from pursuing it. Like definitely pursue it, but I definitely think you should be it should be something you do after work. You know what I mean? Like you should already be in the sector doing the work, um, because of how passionate you are and because you do have a lot of knowledge. Like,
I feel like
but
if there was a
you need to
position
start
that
working on the
allowed me to
experience.
talk, exactly. If there was a position that said, hey, we just need you to come in and talk to some people about such and such and such, I'd be like, oh my gosh, yes, that's me. Ask me to touch something, tell me to run a whole NASA scan. I'd probably be on a three-way call with, one of my classmates and my teacher, like, guys, so they said I gotta run a whole NASA scan. What am I looking for again? That kind of thing.
Right.
But tell me to have a conversation with somebody on hardening their system, and I'll come in and I'll be like, oh, okay, fine. So the first thing you want to do is you want to run a credential scan. Let's see, what your vulnerabilities are, and then we perform another one. Then that kind of thing. Like I could carry you through a whole conversation. Like I've been doing this for years, but I've always been an avid lover of books and reading. So reading became my go-to for everything. We'd be doing lessons in class, and I'd have one screen open with Zoom and the other screen on Google, and as fast as my teacher said something, I'm Googling, I'm coming up with answers, I'm coming up with questions, which also made me a very well-rounded and resourceful person because I was able to understand classwork, but I was able to read it in such a short space of time. I was able to give feedback and ask questions as well. And I feel like, when anybody asks me, like, how'd you pass that exam with no knowledge? Because it's a really difficult exam, such a difficult exam. It really is a difficult exam to pass. I tend to say, what, I made 48 hours out of 124-hour day because I literally did nothing but eat, sleep, read, tech, anything cybersecurity related. I was up in the morning, 6 o'clock, reading news, reading articles, you know, pulling up pages from OSWAP and this, and on Sundays when everybody was out with their family members, I was doing a workshop. Things like introduction to networking, mobile exploitations, pawning, stuff like that. I was
Right.
doing all of these things. I was super active on all my social media outlets. I joined the DEF CON group for New Jersey, went to a meeting, learned to pick locks. Like
Okay.
I did everything under the sun. I volunteered virtually for the Texas Cyber Summit. Um, and literally, when I say from that day, when I discovered that ad about cybersecurity and I went down that rabbit hole, I have not been able to find myself back out. I'm just like so engrossed in everything tech-wise, cybersecurity, infosec. It's literally like consumed my life, but not in a bad way. I'm never regretful for any moment. I love meeting people. I love talking about it. I love learning. Um, and I definitely do have a deep-seated passion for it. But to anybody that feels that way and goes into it just as hard as I did, please just remember your health comes first, because I tend to
Right.
forget that a lot sometimes.
Awesome. But yeah, that is definitely, I would say don't get burnt out. So that is a lot. But no, so I mean, you overcame it, you persevered, you learned a lot. And it just goes more into that passion, right? So I think the only thing that you're missing now is just the experience, and not in a bad way. Just like now you need to just get in there and start getting experience, because a lot of what we do is OJT, right? Because it's all new.
Mhm.
So someone can say, hey, we need you to do X, Y, and Z, and then they're going to have you come in and they're going to show you how to do X, Y, and Z, even though you already said you could do it, because this company does it differently. Or we have a different software suite that we do it with. or we pull reports this way, or X, Y, and Z. So even if you move from one company to another company doing the same job, it may be different, especially when you're doing DoD versus private sector type work. So it's all about getting your foot in the door, and I don't think you're going to have an issue with that, especially with your ability to network and your passion for it. And I want to have you on again once you do get in the industry. So
Yay, I'll be glad to. And now I have my final question.
Okay.
So when you look at job descriptions, is it important? I know it's important to be able to understand what's needed, what's required, but in terms of, again, I got to go with CySA. When I look at job descriptions, there's tools that you use for scanning, hacking, blue team, red team, for example. But I've realized that if I went through 50 different job descriptions, they all were requiring you to have knowledge of tools. It's a wide range of tools that can be used for vulnerabilities and stuff like that. How do you narrow down which ones are the ones that you absolutely need to use or need to learn to use? Do you narrow it down? I mean, clearly, yes, I can see that there's a way to learn all, but relatively no.
Right.
So
Yes.
how do you narrow down which ones are the ones that you absolutely are going to be 100% sure that, okay, yes, I can do this, yes, I can do that. How do you do that?
There really is no defined list, to be honest with you. There's some bleed over. So certain tools are similar to other tools, right? There's different categories. Like if you go through CEH or CHFI, there's certain forensics tools, certain how you clone a drive, this the type of software you use to clone a drive, things of that nature. But there is no predefined list. It would be more of you doing a little bit of research on the tool
Okay.
that they're asking for before you get to the interview process. So I'm not telling you to stretch the truth, but nothing wrong with clicking a button and then doing the research on
Right.
it.
Yeah. Because like one ad had, they want you to have knowledge with Rapid7. And I'm just like, I've heard about Rapid7 in my life before. What is Rapid7? And then you'll see other ones and they're like, they want you to have Splunk, they want you to have Nessus, they want you to have Burp Suite. Then you look at another one and they're asking for Metasploitable and Nmap. And so it's like, okay, I know these, I've seen them before.
Right.
And then after a couple more descriptions and researches, your mind still kind of goes back to the hold up. Do I need to learn Rapid7? Like, because maybe I saw it again. So now I'm just like, do I need to learn Rapid7? Because I've never heard of Rapid7 before. So now that I've seen it in 2 of these applications that I want to submit, do I go like you said, I just click on it, read it up, and that's pretty much it.
And then lab it up. So because you know what I mean? Like, so it's hard to for me to articulate. Like, you can't know every single tool. It's just not possible.
Right.
And they're going to ask you for some off the wall stuff sometimes. You're not supposed to lie about it. So you're not lying. It's just that you don't have hands-on experience with it outside of a virtual environment, which mirrors a real environment. So no, you're not a forensics analyst with 5 years of experience. But neither was the person 5 years ago. Like, they had to learn the tool and what have you. And even though they're asking you to have extensive knowledge sometimes of the tool, you may not be able to obtain it. Like, there's certain tools that you can't even own, like unless you have access from the company, right? It's just
right.
It's about you coming in with knowledge. Like, I have a lot of technical knowledge, and I have a little bit of experience because I've touched it. And then you can explain that in the job interview process.
Yeah, because some of them require you to have like a membership to learn it as well, or to the platform. And I'm just like, I'm not paying $138 something a year to use this if I got to learn it. Like,
right. And a lot of that stuff is just recommendations. Like, there's going to be some things that are hard coded, like you must have these requirements in order to apply. There's nothing you can do to get around that. But if it says recommendation, then it's something that you can research and then lab up. if possible. If not, then just do some research. Like I understand how this tool is supposed to work, and I found a version, a light version, or I found a similar version. I found its cousin, and I played around with that. And you're going to get hands-on experience when you get in the company.
Gotcha. How do you get over the fear of breaking a VM?
What do you say?
How do you get over the fear of breaking a VM? Like I'm scared. Like I have VMware, I have VirtualBox, I have Windows, Ubuntu, Kali, Metasploitable, FossaPop. I have a whole bunch of stuff, but I am scared to run like the really hard stuff on them because I'm like, okay, if I break this VM, I don't know what to do. How do you get over the fear of, because you have to break stuff, especially if you're gonna do red team and you break stuff, you put it back together, you fix it. That's basically what hacking is all about. How do you get over that fear of, oh my God, I'm gonna break this VM. I don't want to break this VM.
But is it yours or is someone else's? Is the
No,
question?
it's mine.
Yeah, then break it. Like so once you get in, it becomes, it's different, right? Like it's more of the fear of like, am I going to take down production? Like, and you always have that fear, like, what happens if I take down production? Like, this is like the live network. Like, what happens if I do this? You know how many times I've taken down production? But the things you get away with as, like, again, as an entry level position, like as an airman, they give us a lot of room to fail. And I have taken down, like, I don't even know if I should say this on air.
You've broken some stuff. Okay.
Multiple bases. Because I worked at an enterprise level, right? And
oh my gosh.
I had to patch something and I pushed it out and it went a little bit too far. And I took down, let's say, a quarter of the Air Force. But
no way. You see, that's like a literal fear of mine, like a whole, like I fear that with my whole heart. Like, okay, the fact that not even am I in a seated position at an organization yet, but just seated in front of my own laptop, like, oh my gosh, I do not want to break this. If I break this, I don't know. Yeah, I guess I could like restart the whole thing and scrap it because that's what it's there for. But I just have this fear of it's like a little mental block in the back of my head. So I'll just go on Kali and like type in a couple lines and not even script, just like literal commands. I'll be like, okay, I touched my VM for the day. That's it. That's enough. I'm done.
Oh no, you gotta take that thing
no
down.
CTFs, no nothing.
Right. It's the process of learning, right? You're gonna fail, and then now you've gotten to the point where you need to lab, you need to explore, you need to break things. But you're always failing forward, right? Because you're learning something new. You're like, okay, I won't do that again. Or at least I won't do that. And then, before you get to production, like, you know what, last time I did that, everything broke. I should probably avoid that. So a way that in the future, you don't take down production, but it happens. Like you will plan and you will have a backup plan. You will have a plan to plan for the plan. And mistakes happen, accidents happen. It's just a matter of making them small. So that way you don't cost the company, millions of dollars.
Okay.
It starts with you breaking your own stuff.
All right. I'm gonna set a date in mind that I'm gonna break my VM by that date.
Yeah, you'll be surprised. And then you get really good at rebuilding things. Like, because the quicker you get back into production, the better, right? Like, you don't want to lose too much time. So that is a goal. Go break something. And then
I thought I broke mine, but it just needed an update. So it's definitely not broken.
Right. But got any other questions?
No, I'm all questioned out. Can you believe that?
Okay, no, that's good. That's a good place to be. Again, in the future, if you ever have any questions, you can feel free to reach out. I do want to get you on again as you make that progression, right? So I definitely will stay glued to your page and see as you move up and whatnot. But then once you get in and you feel comfortable, I'd like to get you back on so you can talk about your experience.
Oh yeah.
And again, feel free to ask questions. I guess this is the part where I sell myself, right? So if you're
thank you so much for having me.
Yeah, no problem. So if you're out there and you're like Tish, and you have questions and you want answers, just feel free to ask me questions. If I get you on the show, that's great. If you just want to ask the question in the email form, you can ask the question in the email form. But that's what this platform is here for, right? So that the other side of the firewall is to showcase those people who are already in those C-suite and senior level positions, right? Those people who look like us, who are the 7 or 9% or where we're at right now, like a very small percentage of people who have that influence and that knowledge. This, the Ask A CISSP, is the exact opposite, right? This is us pulling in people who have questions, want to get into the industry. Like you came from a totally different sector and now you want to do something different, right? You have a passion for it. We want to showcase that as well. And then hopefully this helps you to network and, get some of those doors to open up so that you can join the team. So I thank you for your time.
I'm going to get t-shirts that says Tish the Badass Pentester.
There you go.
For my next visit.
There you go. I'll buy one. But yeah, I hope this helps you. Thank you for your time.
No, thank you. This was so informative and well needed. It definitely cleared up a lot of questions. I'm glad we were able to, do a whole Q&A session as opposed to me sending you 55 questions. So yeah, this dialogue was definitely needed, much better than I anticipated. So thank you so much for that.
All right, no problem. So anytime. And then for everybody else listening, please hit the website, www.theothersideofthefirewall.com. So you get to our social medias. You can find me personally. I'm at RyRy Security Guy. That's RYRY Security Guy. I'm on LinkedIn, Clubhouse, TikTok, Instagram, and Twitter. And you have anywhere you want people to reach you at?
Mostly LinkedIn, Metisha Harper, and my handle on Twitter is Lil Ms Muffin Cup, LILMZMUFFINCUP. Sorry, yep, that's it, correct. And it's the same for Instagram if you want sweet treats. And I ship cakes. I ship this thing called a cake in a jar. It's literally a 8-ounce jar with cake and icing, and it can be shipped anywhere in the country. And I have like 6 beautiful flavors.
Delicious, actually. Okay. So I'll grab all your descriptions and we'll put them in on the video as well so people can reach out to you.
Okay, works for me. This was good.
Yeah, so stay safe, stay secure.